Breaking news, we have received reports from Muddy Waters that Luckin Coffee is involved in accounting fraud from April 2019 to January 2020, fabricating more than 300 million and inflated expenses by around 196 million. Let's move to Luckin headquarters and hear more from their management.
Hello, Ms. Jenny, we are from SMU News. May I know your thoughts on the Luckin's accounting fraud? Are the allegations by Muddy Waters true?
No, we deny all allegations.
Let's hear more from Luckin COO Liu Jian instead. Hello, Mr. Liu Jian. Based on Muddy Waters' report, you are the one who instigated the accounting fraud. Is this true? And why do you do so?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Are you an employee of Luckin Coffee?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on Luckin Coffee accounting fraud revealed by Muddy Waters? Do you take part in the fraud through the redemption of coupons?
We are busy already. Watch out. You go away. We don't know. Bye-bye.
It seems like we're unable to get information from the people directly in the fraud. However, we will be back again with more information related to the accounting scandal.
Last Friday, it was revealed by Muddy Waters that Luckin Coffee has been falsifying its accounting data for almost a year, misleading investors and the public that the company is performing well. However, we were unable to get any information out from the top management and the employees back then. To give our viewers some background, Luckin Coffee was established in 2017 to take on Starbucks in the Chinese coffee market. Luckin went public in May 2019, raising around 561 million in its initial public offering on Nasdaq. The IPO was highly anticipated because of the company's rapid expansion and aggressive growth strategy, which attracted strong interest from global investors. Today, Luckin has published a report after conducting internal investigations and revealed that they have indeed been committing the accounting fraud as reported by Muddy Waters. Luckin has agreed to pay $180 million to the US Securities and Exchange Commission for committing fraud. They have then filed for bankruptcy soon after and delisted from the Nasdaq. Investors are now filing lawsuits against Luckin in demand for their money back. Let's hear from some investors who have taken these issues online.
Just give me my money. Yay!
Just give me my money.
Yay!
Just give me my money.
Yay! Just give me my money.
Yay!
They gave me my money.
Yay!
Just give me my money.
Our ethical investigation team will now go through with our viewers on key ethical issues in Luckin's case. The employees at Luckin are involved in three fraudulent schemes. Firstly, the employees supported Luckin by creating fake customer orders using their personal account, their family members' account, and other related companies' account. They will use these accounts to buy the vouchers available on Luckin's app before redeeming and placing fake orders to inflate sales. Secondly, the employees also helped to sell coupons to fake corporate customers who were actually related to Luckin. The employees then redeemed the coupons to inflate sales. Lastly, some employees also collaborated with third-party shell companies to create fake business activities through coupons. The shell companies, which are controlled and established by Luckin's employees or their relatives, would purchase and resell these coupons to individuals who neither place real orders nor redeem the coupons, and would then transfer the funds back to Luckin. Employees then altered bank statements to show fake transfers from these shell companies and switched the source data used for financial reporting to a fabricated database, hiding the fraudulent activities from the finance department. With these activities, the company has fabricated more than 300 million in sales and inflated expenses by around 196 million. These activities have also allowed the company to raise a total of 864 million from investors. The first key ethical issue is Luckin's decision to commit fraud and disseminate deceptive information. Luckin has used the three fraudulent schemes mentioned earlier to inflate revenue and prepare their financial statements, thus misleading stakeholders into thinking that the company is performing well.
When we talk about an organization committing fraud, it usually starts from the top, which is why we are starting off the ethical concepts by talking about corporate governance. Corporate governance refers to the practices and processes in managing an organization. It is important as it plays a large role in making sure that internal measures are put in place to prevent conflicts of interest, ensure that employees abide by the rules, and reduce the likelihood of fraud. In particular, the main factor that facilitated the fraud was Luckin's composition of the board of directors, where a large percentage of power was concentrated amongst the CEO, Jenny Qian Zhiya, the chairman, Charles Lu, and his sister, Sun Ying. As the major shareholders, they had vast control over the board. The other directors may have had limited influence or control, and this power imbalance might have played a factor in their ability to commit fraud, as they were able to override internal controls, exercise their influence to fabricate the sales figures. Next, we have the concept of board member duties. As the board of directors of Luckin, they had duties such as the duty of good faith and the duty of care. By definition, the duty of good faith requires board members to align with the organization's mission. In this case, Luckin's mission was to simply be part of everyone's everyday life, starting with coffee. However, this mission was overwritten by the CEO's aggressive mission to overtake Starbucks and expand rapidly. Had the board aligned themselves with the CEO's mission to pursue profits, it may have seemed as though they had abided by the duty of good faith when it came to the fraud. However, the duty of good faith is just one portion of their responsibilities. Another duty that the board members have is the duty of care. This duty ensures that the executives carry out their management responsibilities and comply with the law in the best interest of the organization. Typically, an audit committee is formed within the board of directors who will be regularly updated by the internal audit department. This ensures a way of making sure that the board remains impartial and will oversee the management's duties in an objective manner. However, for Luckin, the audit committee had delegated the responsibility to the management, more specifically the CFO. This was a major flaw as it compromised the independence of the internal auditors, where even if the internal auditors had discovered the fraudulent sales transactions, it would not have been fragged out to the audit committee. In this case, the neglect of the duty of care enabled them to keep the fraud going until it was discovered later on. Now, let's talk about virtue ethics, specifically the personal characteristics of the chairman, Charles Lu, and how he influenced Luckin's leadership to commit fraud. Based on an article by TechNote, we determined that Charles possessed incredible leadership qualities as he was an opportunistic risk-taker. He had made many record-breaking IPOs in his history and was always talking about growth, raising funds, and business expansion. While this would have made him a goal-oriented and effective leader, we found that he had characteristics of greed. In one interview, he stated that he resigned from the government because he wanted to pursue higher profits to afford wearing fancier clothes. Putting this together, he may have been an aggressive leader who was overly focused on goals, combined with greed, which played a factor in making the unethical choice of fraud. So how does his leadership influence the whole of Luckin and the fraud saga? Charles had tremendous influence given his long-standing work relationships with the CEO, Jenny, and the COO, Jian Liu. Prior to Luckin, they had worked closely together in startups such as UCar and Car, two car-hailing companies which were both started by Charles. Working together for years, Charles' working style and mindset of quick growth may have influenced the two executives. This gave them the mindset of focusing on goals, achieving them regardless of the means necessary.
Linking back to the previous slide, Charles' virtue ethics and leadership might have also contributed to the formation of Luckin's unethical culture. Firstly, due to his intense focus on using aggressive methods to raise capital for the companies that he has chaired before and now with Luckin, he might have the motivated blindness to overlook Luckin's management acts to fraudulently inflate the sales, as long as Jenny and Jian Liu were able to meet his expansion goals and also to feel good about it. Secondly, this can also be linked to Charles' virtue ethics as being opportunistic, where he only cared about the outcome but did not focus on the methods that have been used by Luckin's management on whether their acts are ethical or not, which may lead him to overvalue outcomes. Thirdly, he might also have indirect blindness in thinking that since the unethical acts of the fictitious financial statements are done by Luckin's management and not him, he should not be held accountable. But he should be held accountable as his tone as a leader might have influenced Jenny and other management on the tolerance towards unethical acts. This also brings us to Jenny's ambitious goal of opening up 10,000 stores within 2 years, which may be embedded with ill-conceived goals. She might have intended to give the employees a clear goal of what Luckin was supposed to achieve. However, this might have caused other executives and employees to act without considering the long-term consequences, leading to them opening up an average of 5.2 stores per day. By doing so, it highlights the lack of foresight by her team, since opening up so many stores requires a substantial amount of capital, which might have subsequently contributed to the inflation of sales figure to attract investors ahead of the IPO. Lastly, there might also be a presence of slippery slope, where Jenny, Jian Liu, and the other employees share a common mindset that the fabrication of financial figures would go undetected. This is evident from their use of 3 different schemes over the time, indicating that their intended dishonesty eventually led to a snowball effect, where their actions grew bolder and ultimately involved fake corporations and collaborations with third parties to inflate sales figure. Moving on, we can also look at how the principle-based framework might contribute to two key executives, Jenny and Jian Liu's decision to commit the fraud. Starting off with Jenny. If we focus on the role-based principle, her role as the CEO involves setting Luckin's vision, identity, and culture. In this case, the mission that she has set was to surpass Starbucks and become China's largest coffee brand by opening up 10,000 stores by 2022. We can see that this goal actually reflects Charles' aggressive expansion vision. One reason for this might be due to Charles' dual role as an angel investor and also the chairman of the board of directors of Luckin, which may have created an imbalance in power or influence, which might have added pressure on Jenny's decision making to follow his footsteps. In making the decision that was set by her, this might not be in the best interest of Luckin. Additionally, if we bring in Cantonism, Jenny's action not only allows for the misrepresentation of financials to gain investors' trust, has violated these ethical principles by disregarding the right to transparency, as she mislead investors that rely on the financial statements to make their decisions for the sake of Luckin's growth. Next, we also can look at the principles-based framework from Jian Liu's point of view. Using his role-based principle, his responsibility is to make the CEO's mission come true. In this case, when Luckin was internally faced with a net loss and was in the midst of an IPO, he would need to figure out ways for Luckin to be portrayed on a healthy and growing company to attract investors. In the end, he did come up with 3 different schemes to inflate the sales figures to portray a healthy aspect of Luckin and also managed to raise 561 million through the IPO. However, he did so unethically by manipulating the financial figures. Jian Liu's approach ignored the principle-based ethic, focusing solely on the end goal, which is to raise the capital, without regard for the ethicality of his methods. This involves asking Luckin's employees to fabricate the sales data, treating them as mere tools to meet targets, which further violates the canteen principle by disregarding their autonomy and right. Other than looking at the principle-based framework, we also can look at the utilitarian approach. Both Jenny and Jian Liu's decision to commit the fraud and disseminating deceptive information might also be intended to achieve the greatest good by securing an estimated of 864 million in investment to expand Luckin. Their goal was to generate profit for Luckin, ensure job security for employees, and grow in influence. However, they pursued this by falsifying the financial figures, which initially seems beneficial but ultimately backfired. When the fraud was discovered, Luckin was faced with bankruptcy, employees lost their jobs, and investors suffered significant losses. This scandal also led to stricter US regulation for foreign companies, requiring more rigorous audits from them. Ultimately, although their intentions came from a good place, their decision had caused greater harm to not only Luckin but also other innocent stakeholders. This caused Luckin's reputation to be tarnished and also violate the ethical standards.
The first external stakeholder we will be discussing is the Chinese government. The Chinese government has failed to uphold the responsibility to prevent harm to the general public in the sense that its regulation was not strict enough, allowing for fraudulent activities to constantly occur, not just in Luckin, but other companies as well. This causes distrust amongst the general public and affects ethical Chinese companies, as there will be a stigma placed onto them which hinders growth. Moving on to the second stakeholder would be investors. Credit Suisse and public investors are just some examples. Investors act upon this deceptive information given by Luckin to make their decisions. They were ultimately harmed because the information given was fake, which led to losses that could not be fully recovered. We can also consider the fact that this information created an unfair competition. The investors did not invest in Luckin's competitors due to the fact that Luckin was performing way better than them. However, we know that it was all a hoax. This could have hindered investors from making potential gains in their investments had they invested in Luckin's competitors.
The second key ethical issue is the failure to report fraud by involved personnel. In Luckin's case, employees are aware of the fraud taking place and they have played a part in the fraudulent schemes. Additionally, the CFO of Luckin should have been able to notice the fraudulent figures when reviewing the financial statements prepared by the finance department. Lastly, the auditors also contributed by issuing assurance letters to investment banks in 2019, thus helping to solidify Luckin's financial status despite not being Luckin's auditors during that financial year.
So now move on to the key ethical concepts, with the first being corporate governance. According to MAS's Code of Corporate Governance, accountability and audit is one of the key areas companies need to focus on, such as having a proper audit committee. However, for Luckin's case, this function was impaired. Other than the fact that the internal auditors reported their findings directly to the CFO than to the audit committee, they are also facing a severe shortage of manpower and resources, hampering their ability to detect fraud. Had Luckin's CEO placed a stronger emphasis on corporate governance, she would have realized the current predicament that the internal auditors were in and could have allocated more resources to them, which could have been the difference between detecting or not detecting fraud. In terms of whistleblowing, Luckin's employees also contributed to the failure to report fraud by remaining silent. During the scandal, Luckin did not have any whistleblowing policies, only until the end in 2019. As such, there was no official whistleblowing channels, which also means that confidentiality would be compromised, turning potential whistleblowers away. While labor laws existed at the time to provide due process and unjust firing, it also is likely that the employees were not aware of them. From the employee's perspective of utilitarianism, choosing not to whistleblow would let Luckin enjoy heightened company growth, allowing them to retain their jobs, ensuring job security, and potentially benefiting from increased remuneration and bonuses tied to the inflated performance. This, in their view, would maximize the greatest well-being for the greatest number of people, helping to provide for themselves and their families for a better quality of life and living standard. On the flip side, by whistleblowing, they would face detrimental consequences, mainly losing their jobs. This is also made worse for some due to being the sole breadwinner, in addition to the onset of the COVID pandemic, creating heightened job uncertainty. Even with labor laws to prevent unjust dismissals, employees will face internal retaliation, adversely affecting their mental health, as well as having to fear for damaging their future career prospects by being labeled as disloyal. It also does not help that the management who is committing the fraud also has influence and power over them and their jobs, creating pressure to remain silent. Hence, with the negative consequences outweighing the positives, employees will be discouraged from speaking out, and knowing that their fraudulent behavior will not be reported, the management will be more likely to further engage in fraudulent practices, promoting a culture apathetic to fraud and form a negative feedback loop.
Muddy Waters, an external stakeholder that we have identified, is involved in the case as it is the first to release information about the fraudulent activities taking place in Luckin. We identified that Muddy Waters was acting upon the 3 levels of CSR, specifically the duty to not cause harm and the responsibility to prevent harm. Muddy Waters upheld the duty to not cause harm as they did not act rashly on information that is not confirmed, ensuring that the information published on the company is accurate, allowing for investors to make informed decisions based on accurate information given by them. Muddy Waters has also upheld its responsibility to prevent harm by exposing Luckin's fraud. It prevented more harm to be done to the investors who acted on this information to decide whether or not to invest. Next, Luckin's auditor, EY, Ernst & Young. Our team has decided that EY have violated one of the professional principles under the Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountants, specifically professional competence and due care. EY has made 2 statements regarding the fraudulent accounts in April and July 2020. Although they have denied being in any cahoots with Luckin in regards to the fraud, our team feels otherwise. They may not be directly involved, but they are responsible in the sense that they had sent an assurance letter to investment banks stating that Luckin Coffee did not have any financial issues in financial year 2019. And this was released prior to them auditing the financial year 2019 financial statements. This could have boosted the investors' confidence in Luckin, causing them to suffer losses when the fraud was revealed, which is why my team believes that EY have violated the professional principles under ISCA.
There are some methods to deal with such ethical challenges. It's crucial for the company to enhance its corporate governance by hiring external advisors to review internal operations and restructure teams to prevent fraud. Additionally, they have to regularly assess internal controls, especially within senior management. Luckin should practice decentralized decision-making. Previously, 62% of Luckin's shares were held by 3 individuals, leading to a centralized structure that weakened internal controls, as key decisions were made without consulting others. By having decentralized decision-making, this will help to reduce risk and by encouraging broader consultation. The board must uphold its legal duties by monitoring upper management closely and hiring trustworthy candidates. Management should reward employees based on ethical behavior, fostering a transparent, ethical corporate culture. Luckin needs to set clear whistleblowing policies to protect the employees and encourage them to expose actions that violate ethical standards and keep Luckin upper management in check and guide them to make the right decision for the best interest of Luckin.
Overall, Luckin's decision to commit the fraud is unethical. The upper management and auditors did not fulfill their duties and responsibilities. By accepting the positions as executives and auditors, they should have exercised due diligence to identify and report the fraud. Luckin's leadership was also too focused on overtaking Starbucks, which they believe would bring the greatest good to the company based on consequentialism. That motivated the upper management to use any means necessary to attract investments, resulting in their unethical actions. They manipulated figures from the financial statements, misled investors, preventing them from seeing the full picture, and undermined their autonomy to make rational and informed decisions that violated Kant's ethical theory, ultimately hindering their investment choices. Additionally, many of the senior managements were short-sighted with a narrow focus on short-term profit. They failed to consider the long-term consequences of their actions, including the likelihood of the fraud being uncovered and the implications of being caught. As a company filing for an IPO, they had a responsibility to disclose accurate information to investors, which they had failed to do so. Thus, Luckin falsifying the financial statement is unethical. That's all for now. See you next time. Hey, want to go buy Lucky or not? I heard they got good discount eh?